what I want to share with you now is really, in the first place, trying to give you a bit of view on our humble journey, as already mentioned, and of course, inspire a lot of questions later on. So let me really come to the point or to the points. So if you could just move the slides. So then quickly on the company, it's end of this month, 145 years old, majority family owned still, but of course stock listed, plus minus 20 billion euro, 3 business units, adhesive technologies. You see also a couple of brands mentioned here. No need to enter into these details. It's the largest division and the global market leader. We have beauty care business, and let's say I'm representing here the laundry and home care business, which is and was also the germ cell of the company activities 145 years ago. So moving on, really going now and zooming in very quickly on digital. Our journey started 2013, really not really knowing what we were doing at that time, starting to measure energy consumption in our factories linked to our sustainability efforts, and making this transparent in, I would say, near time, locally, but also centrally. And out of that backbone, a lot of things were developed. So you see a couple of numbers and impacts. We have around about 7,000 people in the team. So you would say more than 4,000 users using our analytics platform is quite a bit. Also financially, decent impact. On the right-hand side, CO2, of course, that is not all coming from digital, to be very clear, but quite a significant part of it. When it comes to connected devices, in the meantime, we're reaching and delivering, let's say, real-time, near-time data, more than 5,000. And what I'm especially proud about is the one on the bottom right. We are pushing quite hard and heavily our connected worker platform, so connecting and bringing our blue-collar colleagues close and closer to the digital world. And here you see we are reaching quite a decent level of interaction already. So coming to the approach, how did we really translate, and please the next slide, I would say our coincidental start 2013, 2-3 years later, into a more systematic approach. Then we asked ourselves, what are the technology areas which would supposedly bring benefits to us, because all what we do, you need to try, it's clear, but always with a clear intention to create a benefit to the business. And at that time, we came up with 4 areas, which we complemented by a 5th one. So that was analytics, visualization, robotics, and sensorics. And then, of course, creating also in this system, in this ecosystem, more and more end-to-end connectivity, with a couple of examples mentioned here. So that was a bit our first approach, 2015, 2016, to sort out our efforts and create one after the other in a pretty, let's say, straightforward pipeline process or funnel, let's say, more and more application cases. And a couple of these examples mentioned here on the slide, they are fully globally deployed and roll out, and I will give you a few ideas in 2 minutes. Others, of course, are in its infancy. So at the moment, I would say we are running something like 35, 40 application cases in different stages, from POC to fully globally deployed at the moment in the network. And then a bit later, we came on the next slide then, let's say, to taking a more value chain approach and also really looking at the ecosystem. You see again in the middle, sensorics, analytics, robotics, and visualization appear again, because you cannot really allocate also these technologies to one single value chain or supply chain step. So that goes all across. What we also saw at that point in time, on the lower end, the IT architecture and systems you're running are extremely important to be able to leverage and scale up fast. Same as the cultural aspect. So it was mentioned already, there is no transformation in digital without people, because that is definitely an important component. And that brought us then to build up really our digital backbone and end-to-end analytics platform. So we have 2 key pillars driving transparency and visibility in our supply chain. So that's what we said. This is somehow a combination of a horizontal approach, meaning really focusing and narrowing on specific application cases, not making it too big, very concrete, tangible, decide, yes, interesting or not, skip. And then, of course, embedding it into the horizontal, sorry, I said vertical, that was vertical, and then embedding it into the horizontal ecosystem here, looking at the value chain. So coming to a few examples before we then also get into questions. The first one, real-time efficiency. So we have more than 250 filling lines on the next slide, connected real-time with that system. Again, no rocket science. These kind of things are there since many years. I think what we really try to do here, have one single standardized approach and deploy it very consequently on a global scale. Since 2018, we were able to raise our OEE average globally on our equipment by 20 points. You see that, ask yourself, hey, how is this possible? We were really crap in that sense. So we're also not very good. And here, I think also important, again, the people dimension. We combine technology with updating and, let's say, relaunching our continuous improvement program, and then really, let's say, combining that in a smart way, delivering quite a significant business benefit, which also helped us, especially last year, to make incremental capacity available for our consumers and customers. Next example was already mentioned, AI, ML on the next slide. So we are using a demand sensing technology, mainly focused on improving our short-term forecast since a few years. And here, it's not only that we use the technology, but we build some smart analytics on our analytics platform around that to continue to leverage those capabilities. And here what we see is, of course, it has an impact on inventory. Honestly, the last 1.5 years, we have not been focusing too much on it because we wanted to have rather a bit more stock. So optimized in a way that we are able to deliver and survive disruption. But of course, what we see here is a forecast bias is very much positively influenced by that technology. But still, this, of course, is in process, in progress, and we have it rolled out now in the EU scope countries and North America, and going into our emerging markets at the moment. Next example, very much connected with our Connected Worker initiative on the next slide, when we talk about visualization. So here we are at the moment experimenting. Can you just flip the slide, please? We are experimenting with digitalization of our ZIM boards. So that is really an example of POCs currently running in various factories. And then here it's really trying to find the right balance, of course, between providing already, let's say, pre-configured data to the line operators, but of course still keeping them engaged in working with the data and also contributing own data points. And last but not least, last example here for end-to-end connectivity. So I would say that is blockchain for people who have not really money. So in the consumer goods FMCG industry, normally, let's say we are routing through large volumes, big scale, and efficiency is king. Still, of course, next to serving demand. And here what we, an idea which was created 3-4 years back is leveraging the capabilities we have built in the meantime in our manufacturing to really identify and serialize each and every product with a 2D, with a metrics code, so that I can always track back whatever happened with that product, either as a consumer but also as a producer or a customer. And in the meantime, we have that pretty much rolled out in the European Union. So in the moment, I scan now one of these codes, and maybe you go, if you have the opportunity, buy one or see one of our products in retail, you can look out for these ones. I scan it, and then I know everything about the product. So which batch of materials went in, which filling line produced, filler nozzle, pressure on the filler nozzle, temperature of the bulk, which pallet it was on, warehouse position. So it's quite a nice capability. At the moment, we are trying to even better understand how we can leverage that even more vis-a-vis our consumers and customers. So we did it because it is relatively inexpensive for us, because the infrastructure is there. You just reprogram the printers more or less, and that's it. Because of, let's say, quality assurance. But there's very likely more more in it now, which we are exploring together with our business colleagues. So that's it. I want to close already my, I would say 10, 12-minute teaser and hand over then back for the first questions. Thank you very much.
Dr. Holbach, but if you've got any, please do raise your virtual hands. We'll bring you straight up and get you involved. Anything you want to know. We're talking a lot about how the kind of the pandemic, I guess, has accelerated digital transformation, has compressed time, et cetera, all those sorts of things. You were obviously already very much on this journey, and in fact, it was embedded. It started to become muscle memory across the company. Has COVID-19 had an effect on you?
Yeah, for sure. I think, first of all, as you said, we are on a journey. And honestly, of course, we are also only cooking with water, just to make this clear, and learning every day. But definitely the capabilities we had built up, especially when it comes to transparency and visibility along our supply chain, helped us very much. And then, of course, we have also a few people in the team who are able to customize very quickly the one or the other additional dashboard, because we really went from an SNOP to an SNOE, really on a daily managing supply and demand in our countries, because our business is pretty local. Just to give one example, so here really we leveraged what we had. And maybe one more example on the production side, we had a number also of equipment startups, ramp-ups during last year. Very little OEMs were able to travel, so we did a lot with HoloLenses and other things. So here, let's say also our network and our infrastructure and the ability that we have a lot of these equipments connected to our digital backbone helped quite tremendously.
And you said, that people are vital for digital transformation. And I'm wondering what did that initial communication process look like? Because you had an established process. Everybody that worked there was, I assume, by and large, roughly happy with the process. I'm sure people like to go for a beer on a Friday night and complain about it, but that's what people like to do. I'm sure by and large they were happy with it. Most people aren't so keen on change. When you knew what you were trying to get to, how did you begin to communicate it? And where do you think the big wins were? Where did you get that absolutely right?
Yeah, it's a very good question. So let me try to answer briefly. I think, first of all, it helps that you have a frame you operate in. So I think that was our, let's say, systematic approach when it comes to the technologies, the use cases below. I think that is an important point. Then we have also, in terms of people in the factories, SPOCs or colleagues who are taking care to translate that then all these POCs into action. We involve the factories in the POCs, usually 2, 3, 4 factories, depending on the complexity of the topic. So really engage the teams on the ground in it. And I mentioned this connected worker platform. One of these elements is a behavior-based safety walk-around app, and that is, in terms of usage, just exploding. And why? Because it took a bit more time, but we developed it really with a few lead sites, and that drives success. To be also very honest, that doesn't work always, but I think we are trying to find here a mix between a structured, let's say, top-down framing and focusing our efforts, and of course, a very strong involvement from our factories bottom up when it comes to designing and validating the single application cases.
Lovely. Thank you.
And of course, at the end of the day, you have to deliver benefits. You have to make life of the colleagues easier, better, smarter, nicer. Otherwise, let's say, all efforts will die over time.
Yeah,
it's very simple.
Deliver, and then I guess keep communicating that, isn't it? It really genuinely is a never-ending story. For every win, you have to tell everybody about the win.
Absolutely, and also one important piece is here external recognition. So we are really proud that 2 of our factories in the meantime have been also recognized digital lighthouses by the World Economic Forum. So that of course also helps, and it's clear if a factory is being part of this quite exclusive circle. We have 31 factories. 2 are in. The others, most of the others, ask themselves, "Hey, bloody hell, why aren't we in this selection? So that is also drives in a way also I would say in a positive sense competition, which is good.
I think it's the first time anyone's wanted to be part of the Lighthouse family, which is a terrible joke based on an awful UK pop band. We do have a question for you from Rami. Good morning, Rami. Forgive me, Emma, I missed the company name. Highland Software.
Highland Software.
Hey, Rami, how are you? So what's your question for Dr. Dirk?
Listening to the presentation, very impressive project, by the way. And you mentioned you guys deployed a lot of applications between POC or full-blown projects. Is any of those applications related to go to a paperless world as part of the digital transformation? We've seen a lot of companies, they still rely on paper, even though they might digitize in certain aspects like robotics and stuff like that. So my question was specific about the paperless environment.
Yes, very good question. And the answer is yes. So all the work being done around the connected worker platform, which is de facto, we are equipping all our blue collar workers now in the factories with iPads. Not everyone gets one, but we have enough, of course, to run on the shift. And that is very much targeted to reduce and eliminate paper. So initially this project was started under the title Paperless Factory. So I think here the name is the program. In the meantime, it's called Connected Worker, but that is exactly the aim. If I go to, let's say, the other processes, planning processes, end, we are pretty much paperless. But of course, in operations, we still use paper, and we will be getting rid of that. Or honestly, to be clear, hopefully most of it, over the next 1 to 2 years.
Excellent.
Rami.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rami. Much appreciated, sir. Speak to you later, hopefully. Right, up next, I think we have Shashidhar. Hey, Shashidhar from Intercos. How are you, sir?
I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, thank you, and thank you for the. I have a question because it's great to see the journey you had been through and see the result now. But it was easy, or it wasn't easy. The background work, or when initially you started, that could have been enormous. And what we see, just the tip of iceberg. Underneath, you must have done so many work, so many challenges. Had barriers, but overcome everything. Any advice or suggestion for a company like us? We are just embarking on this journey. What to look for? Is there any challenge we should be preempting so that it makes a smoother journey for us?
I would not dare that I have an advice with the silver bullet for you, but just a few thoughts. So how we did it. First of all, you're totally right. There are many people behind, great people, much greater than I am. So with a lot of brilliant ideas. So you need at least a few of them. We built up these competences in the supply chain team. I think that was one factor. This top-down, bottom-up approach. Another one, you have to make sure also that you engage your management properly. That was not that easy at the beginning. So how did we do it? We did also a lot of things trying out with relatively small money. I would not recommend to try to do too big things at the beginning, but rather smaller, faster, make it work. Sometimes it doesn't work. Okay, you scrap it, and then honestly, I don't know. We have scrapped $100,000 or $200,000, whatever it may be. So it's not nice, but okay, things happen. But do it rather pragmatic. In the meantime, honestly, even our CEO is proudly mentioning our external recognitions, especially. So that was a journey. But let's say these are a couple of thoughts I would have on that sense. So try and dare. So, and don't wait that again the big let's say ultimate solutions falls from sky. So
And Dirk, let me ask the question that Shashi is far too polite to ask. What was the biggest mistake you made?
There's not only one mistake. Honestly, that would be the first answer. So I think we learned, for instance, hard that things don't work, especially at the beginning, if we don't involve the sites. So that I mentioned in 2013, we started with this energy metering and so on, central concept, my idea was I want to have a screen in my office, or let's say in front of the office, with a world map, all the sites on it, and then I see live the energy consumption. Yes, we rolled it out. It took us almost 2.5 years until we really completed this one. By the way, that is what we call today our backbone. So that helped us. But we did it really from the headquarter. And then we realized it doesn't work like this. So working on the strategy, the framework is good that you can do with a few people. Yeah, but then, of course, you have to share, get feedback. And then at the end of the day, when it comes to all these POCs and pilots, you have to engage the factories and the warehouses into that. Otherwise, you don't really find out, is there pull enough next to the technology? Does it work? Yes, no. But is there pull enough that at the end of the day, a rollout will be successful and make sense? Yeah.
Thank you.
So, and by the way, maybe one other thing is at the beginning, we were also trying to go too big in terms of application cases. So then it gets too complex, too many variables. So we try to find the right balance and then also capture the benefits in the proper way so that we then have business cases which we can scale up. Maybe one last point also when it comes to suppliers. We work with startups. I think that is good, yeah, to do that for sure. But it's also sometimes, let's say, challenging because you don't find the ability to scale up on a global level, and we have a global footprint. And here, I think sometimes we were too nice and we waited too long, and before we said, okay, it doesn't work. By the way, also sometimes for larger players, yeah, you have to realize they can't deliver what they say.
Thank you very much, Steve. Shashi, thank you much for your question, sir. I hope we can talk again over the next couple of days. Thank you very much indeed. Up next, we have Tracy from Applied Industrial Technologies. Good morning, Tracy. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you so much for your presentation. When I look at it, it looked like your company is partnered with Siemens when it comes to plant sensors and maybe preventative maintenance. So are you monitoring your production lines in-house, or do you have a third party doing that? If you do it in-house, just curious how many associates you're needed to manage that, and how has your unplanned downtime improved since you've put that in place?
Yeah, first point, yes, we use also Siemens, but I'm not to make any advertising for Siemens. We use also Schneider Electric and Aveva, just to mention a few others. We monitor line performance in-house, indeed, and we try to localize as much as possible, of course, to the factories. Yeah. So and then it's not like that we have someone sitting there and watching it really real time, because our assets are honestly not so expensive. But of course, let's say all the analytics work. We have a big repository of standard dashboards developed by our global continuous improvement team, which are used predominantly in the factories then when they do their shift review, their daily review, so in the DOR and so on. So from that point of view, it's as centralized as possible, because at the end of the day, also actions have to be derived and executed locally. I had this morning a virtual country visit with our Turkish team, Turkish factory. They're the guys, in the meantime, they're running at 92, 93% OEE in the entire factory. Also in terms of technology and also the analytics are using at the moment, even, let's say, things which we don't have in other factories. So also here, you see different levels of maturity in the different geographies, in the different plants. So
thank you very much.
Does that help?
That helps. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Speak to you later. Take care. Up next, we have AJ from PepsiCo Foods. I think we saw AJ briefly there. Hey, AJ, how are you?
Good. Hey, Dr. Holbach, thank you for that presentation. It was quite transparent. I love the practicality of how you put it together. I got 2 questions for you. So one is, you actually mentioned it earlier, as you kind of went in through plant performance and you started adding in visualizations on the factory floor. One of our experiences was that we also saw a challenge in keeping people engaged when they were used to presenting information and understanding their own information. And as we presented information more automatically, keeping people engaged in the process was difficult. So I'd like to hear kind of any secret weapons you found in terms of switching that or how you applied that principle. And the second one is a little bit more on the smart codes that you referred to, because we're talking about the same thing too. And did you actually mention that you're actually integrating lot codes and traceability through unique identifiers on each lot that's coming through, or is it just generic as it relates to the product information that's there?
Probably I'll start with the second question. It's not even on the lot, it's on the product itself. I have it fully serialized. So it's really a unique identifier of a single entity I produce. So each code is different, inline generated, and we can do this because we have, let's say, all the big and relevant filling lines, more than 250, connected to our backbone with line PLC and so on. So it's really unique by product. So we are producing a couple of billions of these codes a year. And to the first question, yes, indeed, I think I was referring to when I presented this digital ZIM board, so this line board. Let's say our experience is, of course, a lot of data and insights are generated by the machines, and we capture that when it comes to breakdown, waterfall, OEE loss analysis, and. And here, really, in the meantime, the teams are used to take this data for granted because it's just, let's say, it's non-corrupted data. It is as it is, yeah. When it comes to this ZIM boards, short interval management, and on the line, you've seen we are a bit, let's say, trying out at the moment whether this is replaceable or not, or which parts, so that we have certain parts on monitors or interactive monitors, but still shop floor colleagues will, let's say, write down, I don't know, shift performance in certain items themselves to keep them engaged. So here really we are trying out at the moment. So I can very much relate with what you say. And I would not claim that we have found there the right solution. Honestly, in the first time I pushed that a bit with our continuous improvement people. They said, no, this can't be, it needs to be done by everyone and so on. But honestly, coming back to the earlier question, you have tons of paper also. Then people note down things and then they edit it into an Excel and they print it out and put it on the board again. I said, hey, I'm pretty sure there is a way in between how we can automate and optimize, free up time, valuable time, but still, let's say, do certain things manually and keep people engaged. So here at the moment, we are trying out, but very much to the point, your question.
Very much indeed. AJ, I hope that was helpful, sir. Lovely.
Yeah, super helpful. Thank you, Dr. Holbach.
Thank you, AJ. Speak to you later. And up next, our last question. We have time for one more. It's Amy from Overhaul, I believe. Hey, Amy, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, really well, thank you. What's your question for Dirk?
So first of all, thank you very much for a brilliant practical example of the advancements in technology. Kind of leading on from AJ's question, I'd love it if you could share your experience of serialization within the EU and the rollout there, and whether kind of what key challenges you had and learnings from that can be applicable to those perhaps in the US who this is a newer challenge, let's say, that they're having to address in comparison to the EU market.
When you refer to this to decode project, I would say we had challenges in two areas. One was more related to our system integration, the background, because you need to generate the code. And there's another, let's say, formula identifier also. This is more related to REACH in the European Union, also printed on the pack. So here really that is this back-end integration to make it flawless. And then on the technical front, honestly, because we're printing this inline, so it's you need, and as there are certain also legal requirements connected with it, you need to make sure that you're hitting it. So quite some effort put into at line speeds being not super fast, but probably 350 units per minute to make that also work. So that was more a technological challenge of bringing the code on the label in the right field, well positioning, and then readable for either an electronic device or the so-called UFI, then also for the consumer. So I would say these two areas we have experienced are probably the most challenging ones.